evening, and I welcome you to your favorite transformative program, Politics and Beyond. Last week, we had a very interesting conversation on the topic, Winner Takes All. We had all the great feedbacks that we could get, and today we decided that we are going to continue with it, largely because almost all the viewers that we engage with encourage us to have a continuation of it. If you recall, we were talking about winner takes all politics, and we're looking at the effect of it. And remember, we talked about it and said that winner takes all in Ghana is largely influenced by two key things: the election system that we practice and the political culture that we have. And it was conclusive, clearly, that the winner takes all is the main cause of our developmental woes in this country. And it was rightly so, because the legislative arm of government, which is supposed to serve as a check on the executive arm, has literally become a stooge to the executive arm, simply because of other provisions in the Constitution, which includes Article 78, which mandates the executive to take most or majority of its cabinet members and ministers and appointees from Parliament. And so it weakens the essence for which Parliament is supposed to be in existence or operate. The other thing that we also realize in the winner takes all has to do with what one of the Nigerian politicians indicated, and I'm talking about Claude. Claude indicated that the winner takes all system, he described it in one of his works as being characterized by what he calls democratization of disempowerment, in which people voted without choosing. And that is really an interesting food for thought there. In all, what we came up with from the guests that we had last week were two key proposals: that we should look at Ghana having a culture of meritocracy, which seems to be lacking in this current dispensation. And the second thing had to do with proportional representation, where he indicated that the proportional representation is what, as a country, Ghana, we need. And he even went further to propose that we may have to try it from the local government level. And so that is what we did last week. And today, particularly when the issue of proportional representation came up strongly, today we are going to have a conversation, a continuation of what we did last week, but we are going to give a particular attention to proportional representation. We are going to look at the pros and cons of it. We are going to look at how it works and whether or not indeed we need to commit to that as a country. So the first question that comes into mind, which all of us will want to know, is what exactly is proportional representation? Now, scholars have had it that proportional representation refers to any type of electoral system under which subgroups of an electorate are reflected proportionally in the elected body. Others also describe it as an electoral system that aims to ensure that the proportion of seats that a political party wins in a legislative body reflects the proportion of votes it receives from the electorate. And that is what proportional representation talks about. Now, when you move further, and that is from IEA. IEA has also described proportional representation as a system that serves as an electoral formula as well as a consensus-building mechanism that fosters inclusion and minimizes the feeling of exclusion. So in other words, from the position of IEA, proportional representation encourages inclusion, unlike winner takes all, which does not encourage inclusion. And that is why the current dispensation, a lot of people feel that they are not part of the system or they've been sidelined. And so this is what proportional representation talks about. Then we look at the types that we have. We have literally three different types. We have the party list, which is commonly used, and as we speak, checks suggest that it is being used in about 85 different countries. We have the mixed member proportional representation, which is used in about 7 countries. We have the single transferable votes, which is the STV, used in about 4 different countries. Then you look at them one after the other. So we're looking at party list proportional representation. And we ask ourselves, what exactly is it? Now, this is the most commonly used version, as I indicated earlier, and it involves parties in the election process. So voters cast votes for parties, and each party is allocated seats based on its party share. So unlike what we currently have, where we are voting for individuals in the party, here we are voting for parties. So the voters do not primarily vote for candidates or persons, but for electoral lists or party lists, which are lists of candidates that parties put forward. And that has to do with the party list proportional representation. The second one that we have is the single transferable votes, or the STV. This is literally one of the oldest. I mean, it is older than the party list proportional representation, and this does not need to formally involve parties in the election process. Instead of parties putting forward ordered lists, like what we have seen earlier on, list of candidates from which winners are drawn in some order. Candidates run by name. Each voter marks preferences for candidates, with only one marked preference used to place the votes. And votes cast for the candidates determine the winner. And so this has to do with the single transferable votes. Then we look at the very last type, and that is the mixed member PR, or the MMP, as we want to call it. This mixed member proportional representation combines election of district members with election of additional members as compensatory top-up. Now, often MMP systems use single-member districts to elect district members. And then the main idea behind the MMP is compensation, meaning that the list PR seat allocation is not independent of the results of the district level voting that comes up. Then we look at also the pros and the cons, because after going through all this, we want to find out whether or not it is relevant. What are the advantages and the disadvantages when it comes to proportional representation? The first pro, or the first advantage we have here, is fairness and representation. So unlike winner takes all, this system presents a strong level of fairness and representation. The second pros that we want to look at has to do with diversity. So it promotes diversity in the legislature in particular. Then the other one has to do with coalitions and compromise. So PR system often results in coalition governments where two or more parties must work together to form a government. And that is the third one. The fourth one is that it reduces regionalism. So in PR system, parties are incentivized to seek support from voters across the entire country, rather than just in specific regions. I remember where I had a conversation with one politician, and he told me that all his party needs to do is to focus on just 3 regions in this country. And when they are able to win massively, automatically they are going to win the elections. And it is just because of the winner takes all that we are running now. So the other one, the other advantage has to do with voter turnout. Over the past years, we record that the turnout in votes seems to be reducing, year by year. But with the proportional representation, it rather encourages voter turnout and reduces apathy and a proper form of representation in Parliament. So these are the advantages that we get from proportional representation. Now, the disadvantage that comes out clearly has to do with complexity. So unlike the winner takes all, where it is, as to borrow someone's word, it is a straight jacket. We know that, okay, the one who gets, the majority vote automatically goes. This one is a bit complex in terms of how the system itself operates. And so these are the advantages and the disadvantages that we get from the proportional representation. Now, having talked about this, we are going to look at the question for the day, and this is where viewers are encouraged to engage using our social media handles, Facebook and all that you can think of, how do you call it, and even our WhatsApp lines. So a democracy requires that a parliamentarian represents its people, and that is the basic duty of democracy, what we are expecting from a democracy. Now, representation here means that the parliamentarian should be a mirror image of the society. The question we are asking, and that's the question of the day, is have members of parliament lived up to your expectation in terms of representing your interest? This is the question. Engage with us through our social media handles, particularly through the WhatsApp line 050-888-1800, as it is seen on the screen. Let us start engaging whilst we take a commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to introduce to you our esteemed guest who is going to help us go through the issues surrounding proportional representation. Just stay tuned.
Welcome to AutoCheck Vehicle Diagnostic and Licensing Center.
I hear my car can be checked here without going to Accra.
Sure.
Emission, check.
Alignment, check.
Brakes, check.
Visit AutoChecks at Koforidua Aquadrum Road for the roadworthiness of your vehicle, from saloon cars to heavy-duty industrial vehicles. Madam, your car is now ready for the road.
Thank you so much. Auto checks, check.
AutoChecks, your safety, our priority.
AutoChecks.
The average human body mass should have at least 60% water for optimal performance in any physical or mental exercise. We can help you maintain it naturally. Natural mineral water. Simply natural.
Welcome back. Still on your favorite transformative program, Politics and Beyond. I am Emmanuel Wilson Jr., your host, or regular host, as someone would say. Today we're going to have a conversation, as I indicated earlier, on the system known as proportional representation. We're going to look at the pros and the cons, or the advantages and the disadvantages. We're going to look at how it operates, and we're going to look at whether or not, as a country, we really need to move or migrate from what we call winner takes all to this system known as proportional representation. We have, as a guest, one of our own favorite young activists or young leader, youth leader of this country. He's the leader, the founder, commander-in-chief of the Economic Fighters League. And I'm talking about our own Mr. Ernesto Yeboah. Mr. Ernesto, welcome to Politics and Beyond.
Good to be here.
I'm happy that you are here. I mean, it's been a while.
Thank you.
So, probably before we go into it, you want to tell us just a brief about Economic Fighters League. How is it going, and what is really it's all about?
Oh, I think that thank you very much once again, and good evening to your esteemed viewers. For most people who know of the Economic Fighters League or have heard of the Economic Fighters League, it's usually been activities in the streets, I mean, in relation to protests. So when the name is mentioned, it's protest that comes to the minds of people. What people don't know is that we have been in the trenches in terms of offering food to the poor, giving clothing to people, sending relief items to people in distress, and all of that, engaging in livelihood empowerment schemes that does not attract the camera because it's not sensational and all of that. So these are just some of the things that we have been involved in, and of course we are unrelenting in our aim to crush the system, dismantle it, in order to resurrect a new one that works for all of us.
That's right. Let me use this opportunity to congratulate you for when Parliament decided to come up with its own new chamber. You were one of the few that really stood against it, and today, if Parliament decided that they were not going to waste our taxpayers' money, we cannot mention the names of those who helped achieve this without mentioning you.
But I think that the greatest commendation goes to the people of Ghana, because at the time, if they kept quiet, look, these guys would have gone ahead.
Very true.
But Ghanaians did not keep quiet.
Very
Ghanaians
true.
spoke.
Very true.
They demonstrated that, look, if you are going to go ahead with this, then we are also...
Very well.
So
very well.
I think
we all have to commend ourselves.
Absolutely.
Now, back to our topic for today. We've gone through the intro and all that. What is your initial take on proportional representation?
Well, I mean, as you were doing the presentation, I kept asking myself, I mean, you've said it all, what am I coming to say? But then my bit to it is that, I mean, proportional representation, and more often than not, it's quite apart from being the system that we need, it's a bit complex to explain. And so you stand the risk of explaining to the disinterest of people.
Right.
And so my way of going about it is to say that, look, proportional representation is that kind of a system where no vote is a wasted vote.
Very true.
So you have a situation where every vote counts. And so whichever political party you go and vote for, it will count. Currently, the system that we have, I mean, our greatest fear, or the greatest fear of voters is, if I don't vote for any of these major political parties, I'm wasting my votes. Look at Gum.
Yeah.
I mean, from nowhere, that guy placed third in the last election. From nowhere. But when it comes to national issues, when it comes to issues of public interest and all of that, where are they?
That's right.
It's because of this winner-takes-all system that we are practicing. And you see, whereas it helps, I mean, the politicians within the MPP and the NDC, the truth of the matter is that it doesn't help the nation as a whole. Because we end up getting our best on the backbencher, and then sometimes our worst at the center. And yet we are supposed to compete with the rest of the world, compete in terms of ideas, compete in terms of policies, compete in terms of world or global resources, and all of that. It doesn't augur well for us. And so proportional representation has a way of, and it speaks to our culture as Africans and as a people. We are consensus-building people. We are not a winner-takes-all people culturally. We are consensus-building people. So, I mean, with this winner-takes-all, what it does is that it aggravates the exclusion, and more and more people feel marginalized and not included, and therefore apathetic to the very things that they should actually be interested in. And so the way I explain it is that, look, if a political party gets 1% nationally they would have 1% representation in parliament. That way you are not afraid to go and vote the party you want. But I mean, on a lighter note, let me ask you, how do you feel about the PNC? Are you still passionate about the PNC?
Well, I'm sure that would be a conversation for another day. But the truth of the matter is, I think that the winner takes all really has a way of killing all the interests, other than the main political parties' interests, as in the NDC and the NPP interests. So the winner takes all has a way of excluding. And so if you do not belong to the mainstream political parties, whether NDC in this country, in this context, whether NDC or NPP, you get to a stage where you feel like even your ideas are not recognized.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what, and I'm sure it's not just with the PNC, but I'm sure it is so with all the other
I was just
political
teasing
parties.
you. I mean,
I
I asked because I feel the same way about the CPP
that's
and
right.
then all the, I mean, other political parties and all of that. But objectively, I sit back and ask myself, why is Green Street a charlatan? Why is Kwesi Pratt a charlatan? Why is Bernard Mona a charlatan? Why? They are not. It is the system we are practicing that has pushed them to the point where they have to survive.
That's right.
So what kind of system is this? A system that brings out the worst in your people. You need a system that brings the best out of your people. And that's how you build a nation. You don't build a nation by excluding the vast majority of your people and thinking that you can make progress. We would not stop going to the IMF until we recognize the agency of the Ghanaian and understand that everybody has a role to play. Yeah. Culturally, if you look at the chieftaincy institution and all of that, every family is represented in there. Every family, because every family has a role to play in there. There are those who carry the stools, there are those who polish the arms, there are those who fix the arms, there are those who carry the chief, there are those who serve in the palace. Look, so everybody has a role, and that's why they feel that it represents something. When Gamma is mentioned, or Volta, what's his name? This white chief. Talk about Fede, and it means something to any and everybody who comes from the region. When the Asante Hene is mentioned, Doma Hene, and all, it means something to the people. Why? Yeah. It's because in there, their families are represented, and they all have a role to play. This moribund system that we are practicing, how do we feel represented in there? Apart from the individuals, we say, oh, me offer, me nuya, and that kind of, it's not sustainable. That's right. And so we need a system that aligns with our values, that aligns with our culture, that brings out the best in us, that promotes. And there's something funny. You find many of the gender groups calling for what they call affirmative action. Without realizing that, look, patriarchy will never affirm you. There is no way, I mean, and nowhere in the history of humans that the oppressor has willfully affirmed
That's true.
the oppressed. It is when the oppressed fought, it's when the oppressed said, not anymore. Yeah. But here you have these gender organizations helping in writing the, draft bill and presenting it to Parliament and saying that you want Bamia to affirm you, or you want Mahama to affirm. They won't affirm you. They won't do it. You see, it's different in the Nkrumah case where these gender groups did not exist.
Sure.
And then it was part of the leadership's vision that no, we cannot be in this parliament without women, because women were an integral part of the struggle that brought about our independence, and therefore it is important that even if colonialism or coloniality did not develop their capacity, it is for us to develop their capacity and ensure that they are here with us to make legislations that benefits the nation. That is structurally and different in every way from what we are seeing today. And so we need the gender groups to understand that, look, there are systems that can help.
Include, yeah.
I mean, create that inclusion. Yeah. You don't need to beg Akufo-Addo or Bawumia or Mahama to, I mean, in the last election, President Mahama or ex-President Mahama chose a woman as a running mate. Yeah. And that was becoming like some big thing.
Sure.
I think that we can do better than that. We don't need women to be affirmed on the benevolence of men. Why don't we put it in a system that ensures that women are there by rights? I mean, they have to be there. Why should it be on somebody's? And you see, the NDC is making some mistake. They think that because Ghanaians are suffering, I mean, it's a done deal. They are going to win the next election. They don't understand our people. And when you were talking, I was doing some calculation. This is our people.
Yeah.
Now, the Swedes were in this space. At the time, it was Gold Coast.
Yeah.
They dominated our people for 10 years and left. The Danes were in this space. They dominated our people for over 208 years. And our people endured. Yeah. And then they left. The Dutch were here. They spent over 274 years raping our mothers, killing our fathers, dissipating the land. And they left. The Portuguese were here. In fact, they were the first to be here. They stayed there for 166 years. Then came the English, 427 years. This was even after, how do you call it, Islamic domination.
Yeah.
They were cutting off our, excuse my language, genitals and ensuring that our people were conquered.
Sure.
In all of this, life was very normal. The J.B. Dankwas and co were, I mean, aspired to become lawyers. They became lawyers. They went to London. I mean, and all. Life was normal.
Yeah.
So our people are resilient when it comes to being oppressed. And the history has shown that.
Yeah.
So it is not the current suffering that would make them. We need to see something. If you, I mean, President, I mean, Mahama, many people have asked, why are you even seeking to come back to? And you hear the MPP make that point. Why are assembly man da? Why are MP da? Why are deputy minister da? Vice president? All of your second. What are you coming to do? In your first time, you are telling us that we are first term, we are and then he goes Yentiobia. So your second term, how different is it going to be from this Akufo-Addo? So you need you need, don't interrupt.
Yeah.
They need to come out with a stronger message. That 24-hour thing that he talked about, I mean, I was like, Bawumia can easily announce it. Or Akufo-Addo can easily announce, from now onwards, Ghana, your beloved country, is a 24-hour economy. What else are you bringing? And so they have to sit down and come with a message to assume. Look, you, John Mahama, you brought young people into politics. And you are accused for that. Your choosing of a woman as your running mate is a good bait. Now you are saying that, look, after going into opposition or sitting back, I have reflected. And in my second coming, what I want to leave behind is a legacy. I want to leave behind a legacy.
Ernesto, I'm not interrupting, but let me find out. I mean, you see, you raised some few issues here which are very, very interesting to me. First one, you talked about the fact that proportional representation makes sure that there's no wastage when it comes to voting. Proportional representation helps to bring in inclusivity. and doesn't take away. Now, there's one issue which has been a pain or a dangerous issue as far as winner takes all is concerned, and that has to do with choosing parties' interests over national interests. So there's accusation that winner takes all is a system that encourages individuals to, of course, to be individualistic, choose parties' interest, choose their interest, other than choosing the national interest. And it is all because it has a way of excluding. Okay, now, practically, the question that comes into mind is, we are advocating for proportional representation. How does proportional representation ensures that this issue of individualism, this issue of parties' interest is taken away? And now we know that we are having nationalistic interest. Practically, take a constituency, take a region, and how do we relate proportional representation to us having a national interest?
Now, the point I was making before the interruption is that we cannot get to practicing proportional representation when it's not implemented. And at this point, there is no way proportional representation can come to fruition without the buy-in of the MPP and the NDC. There is no way.
Okay.
And that's why I was spending some time on how John Mahama can sell that. And you see, after telling the people of Ghana that this is what you are coming up with upon reflection, what you are doing is you are then rising to the point of a statesman. Now he's seen as a politician, but he needs a message that makes him a statesman, a father for all type of figure. That I'm not coming to, on a vindictive path, or I'm coming to, in your first term you built, you were into projects and all of that. So those are not the things people want to hear. And if you listen to Bawumia, powerful speech, it was about the inclusion. Maybe if he sold proportional representation, it would actually sell. This guy has moved from economics all the way to digitalization, and then on the day that he had won that major election, he was talking about the inclusion and how, he was chosen by Akufo-Addo and, all of that, a minority who has now come to hold the flag, and therefore it is possible for, it was an inspiring message. And he could sell proportional representation, in that light. I was talking about proportional representation bringing out the best in our people. How does it bring out the best in our people? It brings out the best in our people in terms of, look, currently, we are running a lie. Our members of parliament, in all honesty, in parliament, who do they represent? Do they represent us or they represent their parties? On e-levy, whose side? Ghanaians, from all sides.
Everyone was against it.
We're opposed to e-levy.
All the research that came suggested that Ghanaians were against it.
And yet, whose side did they? So, we are running a dishonest, or a system that makes us dishonest. Proportional representation is not lying. No. It's saying that you are going to parliament to represent your party. And so arm yourself with your party's vision, your party's program, your party's policies, your party's ideology. So you are there to do just that. But this one, it says that, you are representing the people. And when the truth of the matter is that you are not. So I think that the more we think about it, we would come to the understanding that proportional representation has so much to give. It has so much to give us. Look, it is a policy that does not just cater for minorities, it caters for the marginalized. And one of the most marginalized groups in this country, and it's not like they are not in the majority. They are a significant number. Women, another marginalized group, youth. Over here, I wish to see some bipartisan politics emerge, where the youth leadership of the NDC, the youth leadership of the MPP sits down and advocate for proportional representation. Because currently, do you know what's happening? What's happening is that for a young person to rise in any of those political parties, they have to be licking boots.
Yeah.
So politics of sycophancy. I mean, you are not of yourself. And so what can you stand for? There's no dignity, there's no pride in you. You're already broken before you set out to engage in politics, to frame policies, to make laws, to govern a nation, and to raise people from one level to the other and all of that. So we need to think about these things and have some. As for the other political parties like yours and mine, it is a shame. They are so broken that they are not of their own, and it's understood. And so you won't get Ayariga come and say, I support proportional representation until he's been instructed by Mahama to say so. You won't get, what's your flag bearer? Mr. The PNC flag bearer, Mr. Edward Mahama. Okay. I mean, it's a shame, but that's where we are. They've broken them to their knees. But this country cannot run like that. It has to mobilize, bring its people together, and engineer the. Look, with proportional representation, you can actually have a seat for physically challenged. They are over 2.5 million in population in this country, and yet they are not represented. Look at Parliament, they are nowhere to be found. And so when it comes to issues of decision-making, policy-taking, and all of that, they are completely excluded. Are we saying the blind have no brains? Are we saying the dumb have no, or the deaf have no brains? They have nothing to contribute? Is that what we are saying? So if we are thinking nationalistically, and this is how I expect Bawumia and Mahama to think going forward. And if they are not thinking so, this is how I expect the youth wing or the women's wing of those. Look, go into those parties. Do they have a coherent youth program or women's program? They don't.
Right.
They don't. During elections, what roles do young people or women play? Women are objectified and used in selling candidates. You understand? And then youth are given T-shirts, risk their lives, and then at the end of the day, what happens? So we cannot go on like this. Meanwhile, you go to countries like Denmark, you go to places like Finland. I mean, they know the next layer of leadership that is, that is going to take over. And they are conscious. They are doing it consciously. What do we have for them?
Very
Nothing.
well. Yeah, that is true. Let's take some few messages that have come in, and then we'll get back to what you have said so far. So this one says, "Good evening, Emmanuel Wilson. My name is Rash Chacha from Yape. In fact, Yape in the central Gonja. Rash, I just want to encourage you to summarize your message because it is really lengthy, very, very lengthy. So try and summarize it, and then we'll get it read for you. This one says, I am Malon from Takrade. I think Ghana needs an exceptional leader to crack the whip. The country is sick and needs a complete overhaul. Jerry's type is the best. Okay. This one says, I'm Kobe from Techiman. Ernesto seems to be attacking JM and the MPP. Why can't he be objective and criticize the failed MPP government? This kind of conversation is giving the MPP the full room to operate, and desperate and dissipate our hard-earned state funds. Okay, number of messages coming, but it looks like this evening, I don't know why our viewers choose to give very lengthy messages. Can you just summarize the messages so that we can read them, because there are really a lot of messages in here, but they are very, very, very lengthy. And also, this is what we are going to do. We're going to take another quick commercial break, but when we come back, I want us to dive into the party list proportional representation. And then, even though we've given a synopsis of it, I want you to help us with how it operates practically, how the party list proportional representation operates, because it looks like it is one type of PR that is very common, mostly used, and if we want to move as a nation from winner takes all, that may be our surest bet. So we'll take a commercial break, viewers, and then after the break, we'll come back and have an in-depth conversation on party list proportional representation. Stay tuned.
Welcome to AutoCheck Vehicle Diagnostic and Licensing Center.
I hear my car can be checked here without going to Accra.
Sure.
Emission, check.
Alignment, check.
Brakes, check.
Visit AutoChecks at Koforodia Aquadrum Road for the roadworthiness of your vehicle, from saloon cars to heavy-duty industrial vehicles. Madam, your car is now ready for the road.
Thank you so much. Auto checks, check.
AutoChecks, your safety, our priority.
Welcome to the Royal Dazzle Event Center. With a lush and well-maintained lawn and garden, you are assured of the best serene and comfortable atmosphere to organize all your family and social events. Live the royal moments here with friends and family. The hosting capacity of 600 to 800 people makes Royal Dazzle the most versatile of places to host weddings, parties, funerals, conferences, concerts, and many more. Create your memories with us. Call us for inquiries on 055-814-8585 or 024-620-2144, or pass by and speak to any of our friendly staff. Locate us at My John, close to Zoom Lion headquarters. Royal Dazzle Event Center, creating memories.
Welcome back. So again, this is your transformative program, Politics and Beyond, and I'm still your host, Emmanuel Wilson Jr. We're talking about proportional representation. We're looking at all the pros and cons of it. We are going to have a particular attention on the party list proportional representation, and we're going to find out how it works practically. How does it operate when we talk of party lists proportional representation, especially in this context, in this country called Ghana? How do we practicalize the party list proportional representation? And I'm still here with our guest, Mr. Ernesto Yeboah, the leader of the Economic Fighters League. So, Ernesto, welcome back. So, we are looking at the types. And the question that comes into mind is, okay, we've talked about the party list proportional representation. Practically, can you walk us through how does it operate? How does it work? You know.
Okay, so the way the party list proportional representation works is that, and even before then, it has to be understood that proportional representation manifests in various ways. It can be adapted to, I mean, the complexities, I mean, of the locality
Yeah.
and all of that. So there isn't one fixed, I mean, for all type of proportional representation. But a popular one or an interesting one that could be good for Ghana is like the South African one.
Yeah.
I mean, where at the end of the day, what happens is, so you go for the elections as, I mean, the parties or PNC, CPP, NDC, MPP, all the other parties and all of that. They go, and then whichever percentage that the party gets, so CPP gets 1%, PNC gets 20%, NDC gets, I mean, it's allocated.
Yeah.
Now, of the 1% that CPP gets, for instance, that represents a number of seats that they are supposed to present, persons that they are supposed to present to occupy the seats in Parliament. Now here, the Electoral Commission conducts a special election in the party where interested persons,
Yes.
I mean, who want to become members of Parliament on behalf of the party contest.
Yeah.
And then based on the number of votes that each of them garners, they are allocated, I mean, a chance to be in Parliament. But then here it would follow some criteria, or it can follow some criteria. Criteria being that, okay, you may have a situation where the Electoral Commission is saying that of the number of seats that you are going to get,
Yes.
this percentage has to go to women. This percentage has to go to the youth. This percentage has to go to the physically people living with disabilities.
Yeah.
This percentage has to go to, let's say, persons within special professional categories. So you can take actuaries, for instance. How many actuaries do we have in Ghana? Despite that, we know that, look, they are very key in terms of helping in legislation and all of it, but we don't have any actuaries in Parliament.
Sure.
And so for such persons who represent those key professional, I mean, groups and all of that, they can get to Parliament just on the basis of that. This is the nation being able to pull its best foot forward in order to, as it were, deliberate and construct or make laws, I mean, to help the country. So now the list would have to fulfill these areas that we've talked about. So you may have a situation where a man may have secured more votes, and next to the, I mean, coming after the man is a woman.
Sure.
Yet, in terms of, I mean, meeting the requirement of the list, it says that 60% must be women. So yes, you, the man, may have won.
Exactly.
But you don't fulfill, your going to Parliament doesn't fulfill the requirements of your I mean, of the parties.
That's right.
I mean, so what happens is that the Electoral Commission would then sidestep you and then bring in the woman, because the woman fulfills that obligation or that requirement.
Yeah.
Now this is where proportional representation can be a bit conflictual.
Sure.
Because, I mean, they voted for me. And because I'm not a woman and I'm not meeting a certain criteria, I mean, the woman has to go.
That's right.
And then I have to stay back. Of course. I mean, what's the price? I mean, if a man would be marginalized. We've marginalized women all these years.
This while.
So if a woman is going to be chosen over you, I mean, in this regard, it is a sacrifice we have to be ready to make.
Yes.
And so those are some of the complexities that comes with party, how do you call it, less proportional representation.
Yeah.
But then it helps. It helps in the area of, I mean, somebody like Bernard Mona.
Yeah.
Brilliant guy. And if that guy is in parliament, I think that Ghana would benefit. We have a lot to gain. If Kwesi Pratt is in parliament, Ghana would have a lot to gain. If Kweku Bakon is in parliament, Ghana would have a lot to gain. And I'm looking at all of them. These are heavyweights. These are people with something to give, and yet the system would not allow them. And so, with party list proportional representation, at least it would allow them to be in there, so that their views cannot be, I mean, marginalized
yeah.
or just swept under the carpet, just like that. So these for me would underscore the party list proportional representation. And the good thing about it too is that having had an opportunity to be in parliament, now Ghanaians will be watching your performance. What are the issues you are taking up in parliament? What legislations are you championing in parliament? What policies are you pursuing, and all of that? And at the end of the day, it is what informs Ghanaians as to whether they give you more seats by increasing your percentage, or punishing you by decreasing the percentage of seats that you have, how do you call it, in parliament. So this way, we are able to choose and to get parties that are really working in our interest. Those parties that are not working in our interest will be punished.
Very true. Very true. In fact, talking of women, there's one thing we also seem to be forgetting, and that has to do with people with disability. They are all interest groups and very key in terms of population that we have in this country. And so proportional representation will create an even environment or opportunity for all of these individuals to be represented. Indeed, when you are outside, no matter what you know, you will not be able to know or feel it the way those who are within feels. And it's quite unfortunate that in Parliament, I stand to be corrected, but I do not think there's any single person who is physically disabled in the current Parliament we have there. So the question that comes into mind is who represents the interests of the physically disabled, and others that we can talk of. Now, in line with that, there are some few questions or some few, well, we are running out of time, but there are some few messages that we want to just go to. So the other one says, good evening, Mr. Wilson. I think the proportional representation will be the only way to represent the blind and the other disabilities. I trust JDM and he will do that. I am Kunbate Solomon. This one says, my name is Idrisu Abdallah from Nanumba North, Bimbila to be precise. My MP in Bimbila has not done much to our expectations. Sometimes I do ask myself whether our MP knows his duties as a member of parliament. An MP is supposed or expected to be a spokesperson for local interest and facilitator who deals with concerns about government matter and also how it spends the money it raises from taxation. Just imagine we, the people of the Nanumba North, can't just finger point what the MP has achieved. I don't know this evening, a lot of our viewers, the messages that are coming are more than teasers. Good evening. Ghana is not ready for a third party, which is crystal clear. And Ernesto that. Okay. Okay, maybe. Tell Ernesto that. So that one went off. Tell Ernesto that both NDC and PP candidates have their track record. So attacking JM, okay, I don't think there was any, will not change anything for Ghanaians. Ghanaians have seen the light, which is the second coming. My name is Big Adams from Asawase. My name is Doche Ashigbi from Volta region. Proportional representation is good, but how do we implement unless there's a change in the constitution? And that is very true. The messages are many, a lot. I'm Paul Yusuf from Upper Denshire West. Okay, this one says proportional representation is lost in our system. Most of our leaders started well, but upon reaching the top, they suddenly developed a one-sided mentality that benefits them only. This is coming from Joy. So the messages keep coming, but as I indicated, it looks like today our viewers have decided to give in teasers. There are a lot of messages coming, but they are not brief enough for me to respond to all the messages that have come. And as to, unfortunately, this is where time will permit us, or time will permit us to be here. So I want to thank you so much for coming and helping us to go through the proportional representation. I want to thank the viewers also for ensuring that today we've gone through another transformative program on politics and beyond. I promise you that next week is also going to be as insightful as it has always been. As always, as I keep telling you, my wardrobe is sponsored by This Clothing. This Clothing, you can locate this clothing at Domi Pillar 2, or you can also call them on the following line, 0244 999 113. And I repeat, 0244 999 113. There's going to be an expose very soon, just like we did with our 4th episode. We were not able to cover that which comes from the national lotteries. We are going to have that very soon. Remember, there's going to be another one too, and trust me, this is going to be an interesting one. Ghana is really going through a lot under this dispensation. Some documents and some procurement breaches coming out from National Service Secretariat. It tells you clearly that we are not living in normal times as a country. And truthfully, individuals are collapsing the public purse. And so stay tuned. Next week, we'll have another episode. But till then, I want you to remember that whatever you do, it is Ghana first. And we need to transform the future of Ghana. Have a good night.